How are we, guys? So in this tutorial we'll be looking in geometries and shapes that Max has. So majority of that will be looking on the right panel, which is under the creative tab, just underneath the plus sign, as well as looking into just the simple modifiers and the parameters of each geometry, and some fun things that you could do with that, such as movement and moving geometries around. So this is the main screen that you'll be looking at mainly. So you got the left, right, front, top, and perspective views in the viewport. And a way to sort of get closer is you press Alt W to zoom in and then start your creation of. So you can, on the side, you can select a box and easily create one by just dragging and dropping them. You got a current as well, and all dependent on the way you drag and drop it, you can change the way the object looks. So for example, I've just created a few different ways you can show off a cone. So some can be a bit thicker, a bit thinner on the top, for example, and then you got different spheres, a basic one, and then you have a cylinder, even a geosphere that is a little bit different from your regular cylinder. An interesting one such as a teapot that is quite cool and interesting based off all the others. And then lastly, there's a plane that comes in quite useful for any types of project that you wish to use in Max. What you could do as well is by selecting one of your geometries, the panel on the side changes as well, based off, of course, what the different types of geometries can give and change. So they have these parameters on the side that you can see just underneath the modify panel. And for example, this teapot, it has its parts that you can change, whether or not you want the top sides or the whole body. As for the box, you can change the length, the width, or the height, from something that's really big, thick, to even something that's really small and thin. There are other ways you can use the parameters panel depending on the shapes. Let's take this cylinder. You can change the segments that you want for the shape. You can see right now that you can't see it at the moment. That's because the segments aren't showing. So what you want to do is press F4 to sort of show them in the viewport, and that then shows how much you want the segments to show. There's also a few things that you can change on your shape, such as the smoothness, whether or not you don't want that to, whether you want it to be smooth or not. Then as for the geosphere, there's a little bit more parameters that you can change, such as changing it from a full sphere to a hemisphere, changing the way it looks, such as the smoothness as well. It's quite cool and interesting, and other different types of settings that you can sort of play around with. Another one can be the way it sits on the graph as well, whether or not you want it above or beyond. And for example, let's just get rid of all these geometries for now. You can select and easily delete them by your keys. And right next to going underneath the plus panel, right next to the circle, there's another one for objects. There's another list that you can choose from that only specifically does curved lines. These can be circled, there's arches, and interesting kind of shape as well, such as an egg, if you want something a little bit different as well. And even lines that you can create interesting shapes as well, making sure that they are closed. And if they're not closed, then it kind of ruins the process that you want to make a solid surface, for example. And what you want to do on the side under the modify panel is by double clicking it and typing extrude. Sometimes it doesn't work, so you have to find extrude manually, and that way, by clicking that, it creates a cool looking surface made out of that interesting shape. And now for this last example, we'll be using the geometries and the timeline just underneath to help the geometry move around quite easily. And this is where we start with just the side panel. You can create any sort of geometry that you'd like. I'll just be using the box. Simply drag and drop, whichever size you want. This will be the first one. And then we'll do another one as well, maybe a little bit smaller. And then now underneath you want to click the key tool, and having your geometry selected, you want to drag that anywhere you'd like, and you'd want to, more importantly, drag the scale underneath so that the actual geometry and the scale move and align together. With that, if you don't change the timeline itself, as you can see underneath, then the actual geometry won't move at all. So for example, when I started, I didn't move the actual geometry from where it was before, so the timeline didn't capture that. So this is what we have at the moment, and that's it. Thanks for watching.